In the last 2 decades, divorces have more than doubled in India. Today, we're not here to discuss about why that has happened, but to channelize our understanding about a judgment which has recently been passed by the Kerala High Court in a matrimonial dispute between two warring partners. At the same time, and this is nothing new, we have 4.5 crore cases pending across the country. This most certainly means that these spiraling cases also on the matrimonial side will add to the burden of the already overburdened dockets. We have with us today Trisha Mehta, a lawyer who is a litigation lawyer in the side of civil and commercial litigation. She is also a pass out from NUJS Kolkata. Recently, she started a page called Powerful Womania, where she talks about issues related to women and benefits of the law that are applicable to women. Hi, Trisha. Thank you for joining us. So we will cut straight to the chase now and talk to you about the judgment, which said that a woman who talks to another man at odd hours, despite warnings from her husband, is subjecting her husband to cruelty. Now, what is this judgment really about, and what do you really make out of it?
Yeah. So basically, this matter is all about, a desperate way of, when the parties are trying to get divorces, basically by projecting cases which do not even exist between them. And basically, in this situation, what happened was husband had earlier filed petitions to get a divorce, to get their marriage dissolved. But what he had put in those petitions was that, they don't get along at all, and she does not take care of his parents, or there are times when she has refused to have sex with him, or, she has used abusive language against him. So I personally felt after reading the judgment that the court did not think that these things are important for dissolving a marriage. So the court and the well-wishers and your relatives, when they all get into the situation, they must have forced the husband and the wife to get into a compromise. And after getting into the compromise, basically the petitions were dissolved. So after getting
this was initially before all of this happened.
Yeah, before all of this happened. So after getting into the compromise, they started staying together. And obviously, since the inception, the marriage was not in the best shape. And after staying together again, they realized that they just cannot stay together. But in view of their earlier petition, they realized that this is not how they will get a divorce. So husband filed the situation. The file basically told the court that she has an adulterous relationship with a ex-colleague of hers. And the husband and the wife in turn filed a domestic violence case against the husband.
So there was a counterblast here.
Yeah, counterblast.
Lots of cases being filed, courts again being, burdened with more and more cases.
More and more cases, absolutely. So because they realize that there is no other way they can get a divorce, so they filed these cases against each other. Now, as you go through the judgment, you will see the court has mentioned that the husband has not been able to prove that she has an adulterous relationship with the ex-colleague of hers. And she's not been able to prove a domestic violence case against the husband and the relatives. But the way they have given the divorce is they have mentioned that the husband kept warning the wife to not speak to a friend, basically ex-colleague of hers from her office, to speak to him at odd hours, which they've not defined what those are. And because she did not stop doing that, the marriage should be dissolved. So, just because the court and the legislature have not been able to make irretrievable breakdown of marriage as the ground, they have given divorce on the basis of these grounds.
Right. Yeah. Which also takes me to another question about how and why this could have happened. When I first read this judgment, from what I could make out of it was that there is it's reeking of patriarchy in the sense that now they've said that, okay, don't speak to a man at odd hours, despite your husband warning you not to speak to him. You are doing that, and that is wrong. So the court said this, and I also wanted to understand if this would also be a general proposition, firstly. And secondly, why are courts giving out sermons about what a woman should do and what a woman should do in a marriage. And thirdly, considering all the facts and circumstances that you laid out, do you think it's now time for India to move to a no-fault divorce, where a partner can simply go to court and say that I don't want to live with this person, I have nothing to accuse him or her of, but it's just how it is. I don't want to live with this person, if it is a contested divorce, of course.
So, to answer your first question, I personally think that why court eventually gave them the divorce on the basis of husband warning her not to speak to her friend is basically they realized that in the first petition only they should have given the divorce, because they should have realized that they just cannot stay together. But now they feel that even though the cases which have been projected by husband and wife they're not able to prove those, but they have to ensure that they get a divorce. They just laid down the ground that, because she was speaking to a friend and he kept warning her, it mentally tortured him, and that's why it's mental cruelty, and they should get the divorce. I don't know what it's obviously reeking of patriarchy, because talking to a friend, what does that even mean? I mean, I can talk to a friend if I'm trying to vent my feelings, what I'm going through at my house. If I'm trying to vent my feelings to a friend, irrespective of what time it is, it doesn't show that I'm in love with him. I'm just trying to talk to that friend to just maybe tell him what I'm going through. So basically, how earlier Bollywood used to try to portray the fact that a girl and a guy cannot be friends. This judgment totally justifies what Bollywood is trying to say, which is not true, because just because I'm talking to a friend at any point in time, that doesn't show that I'm in love with that friend. Or maybe I'm just trying to create another relationship with that friend. I'm just friends with that person. I'm just trying to speak to that friend because I'm going through something in my life, and the concept of no fault divorces 100% should be in the system, which I think the courts have been trying to suggest to the legislature for quite some time now. But they've not. Yes, because Supreme Court recently held in a judgment that if you just absolutely cannot stay with each other, and if you cannot salvage the situation, then they should be given the divorce, the husband and the wife. Obviously, they've laid down certain guidelines. They've laid down certain grounds on the basis of which they will give the divorce. Right. But unfortunately, this has not been introduced in the act. So in order to get divorce, men and wife try to show how they can meet those grounds, like adultery, desertion, or change in religion, etc.
Correct.
Yeah. So if they introduce no fault divorce, and if they introduce certain grounds on the basis of which you can get it, maybe husband and wife will not do situations like project a case which does not even exist. Right. like adultery or like domestic violence, which has happened in this case.
And keep filing petitions in the courts and add to the already rising
add to the burden of the court. Absolutely.
Correct.
So, yeah. So, but now the situation is such that even if they want to introduce no fault divorce, what opposite people who oppose no fault divorce are saying that mutual divorces exist. So why do you want a no fault divorce? But my argument is, when you go in for mutual divorces, when the second motion comes into the picture, when there's a child involved, or when there's maintenance involved in terms of the wife and the child, then it eventually becomes a contested divorce. So it is very difficult to get a mutual divorce when the husband and wife are both happy with the terms.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I remember back when I was litigating, I used to see all of these issues where there was a mutual consent filed, and one party or the other always had a problem with one clause of the agreement that they had in place. So this was always the problem, and they were worrying on that also. I mean, I think that is pretty problematic as well. So I get where you're going. Yeah. So I mean, this issue, I think, is pretty, you can debate it for as long as you want. These problems that are being caused by various laws, some loopholes here and there, and of course the issues that currently exist in our society.
I would like to say, I'm not saying that if if one day wife comes up to the court and files a petition that I don't get along with him because I don't get along with the way he's living, or I don't want to live with him because he doesn't have enough money, etc. Or the husband is saying, I don't like the fact that she does not do a particular thing in the house, or she does not wake up on time. Some things which they can, manage, something which they can, eventually adjust to. I'm not saying those grounds should be one of the grounds to give the divorce, but it has to be a situation in which they just cannot stay with each other.
Right.
Like if they just don't want to see each other's face, they just don't want to live under one roof, the court should be okay with giving that divorce. Don't continue thinking that just because marriage is basically two soulmates are meeting together, and it's a very sacred concept, and they should not be living separately, and they should be staying together despite the fact that they don't want to stay together. The court should be okay giving that divorce
and not giving out sermons which possibly point further to a patriarchal society. So yes, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, even if the court does not want to go into that, does not want to show that it's a reeking of patriarchal system, I think the court just gave them the divorce because they realized that they just cannot stay together, and this could be a great reason to give them the divorce.
Correct. But Trisha, I'm also coming from the point of view of the fact that judges are also products. They're not living outside of the society. They're products of the society itself, and they will obviously reflect how the society thinks. So, I mean, coming from that point of view, I think, of course, they didn't want to project it like that, or they didn't want to give out a proposition which may reek of patriarchy. But there has to be some sort of understanding of the systems from where they belong, and that is where the judgment came from.
I agree, absolutely agree, but I also feel that judges are trying to balance and are trying to bridge the gap. I will not completely say that they are because they are from that system, and they are men. Most of them are men themselves, and that's why they're passing these judgments. Because the courts have passed a lot of judgments which are in favor of women, and which are very balanced in terms of giving benefit to both husband and the wife. But here is just the situation of making a mistake earlier and right. Mending the situation now,
right,
more than anything else.
Well, we can go on and on about this, but yes. I think we can close it here. It was great talking to you, and thank you so much for your insights. We hope to have you back soon again and discuss some other issue. Until then,